Welcome to my latest podcast. John Abendroth here, PGA golf professional in Northern California, and joined today by Lee Wybranski, renowned golf artist. And we'll get to his story in a moment. And just want to let you know that today we're sponsored by Original Joe's of Westlake. They now have outside seating involved along with their great to-go menu. And my friends at Baggy's Liquors, of all things, in Burlingame. They have been serving the Burlingame Millbrae area since 1958. They are nearly a landmark here, and they remind you to drink responsibly and go visit. And Ray will tell you a joke when you go in there. So we're looking globally, but thinking local. So good fun stuff there. Lee, thank you so much for joining me on what must be a surreal Friday as we chat. It's U.S. Open Friday, the amended date to it. You would normally be in the merchandise tent with a line of people wanting your great artwork, but here you are in your studio and I'm in my office, so must be kind of surreal for you.
It really is, John. It's great to be back. Thank you. And it is, that's a good word for it. I don't think I could think of a better one. It's odd.
Yeah, and we first met the Olympic Club in 2012. I mentioned to you that my son had been aware of your art and he tracked you down, and then we spent some time at Pebble Beach last summer.
Right.
And it's sad, but this is one that we'll remember. And, I mentioned to you offline that, your artwork, which your 2020 U.S. Open art is right behind you there, which is very, very cool. And it's almost to me like, when you hear these auctions, when there's like a misprint on a baseball card, it sells for much more than it would have if it was proper. And
Right.
This will be one that people will remember with no fans, all the majors that are being played, the three, with of course the Open and overseas not being played this year, but a lot of changes, and nice to see that golf has been able to operate in the manner that it has.
Boy, I'll tell you what, we do a lot of work for private clubs as well. And I just traveled to some great clubs back east, which brought me very near Winged Foot, which made it even more bittersweet. But all of my head professional friends tell me that rounds are up, anywhere between 30 and 50% up. And the season's not over yet. So golf has certainly benefited, and it just has that distinct advantage of being an outdoor sport that isn't played in close quarters with one another. So professionally, it's been nice. I enjoyed watching replays of majors from the 70s and 80s on YouTube back in the spring and early summer, but it was nice to see some live golf again when they started up.
How much time and input and effort do you put into picking the location for a major championship poster like behind you there at Winged Foot? Do you get input from the members, or do you kind of go in with don't infect my brain with a bunch of ideas, and you just walk the golf course and get some feel for it? Talk about that process.
Yeah, sure. In short, I collaborate very much so with Mary Lopazinski and her team at the USGA. And they are, the clients, so to speak. So, and we've been working together since 2003, I think. So, a really good working relationship, highly collaborative. Typically, the club has some input in the process. They have the opportunity to express some opinions. And often, things like this year's poster, it's almost a foregone conclusion that you're going to do something around the clubhouse at Winged Foot, because as great as the golf course is, and it's obviously epically good, the clubhouse is just sort of this iconic landmark that everyone knows who's been there. So, in this particular case, I looked at all the other holes. I looked at 10, 10's very iconic. Everybody knows about it. Hogan's famous quote about hitting into someone's bedroom. But, you know, it really is very similarly to maybe Oakmont in 2016, you know. Oakmont, amazing golf course, utterly amazing, right? Everybody knows how difficult and square greens, etc. But, you know, what the layperson knows is the clubhouse and the church pews. So you have to try and, I always feel like part of my job is to take what moves the needle for people and present it in a different manner. I usually have a few, you know, an extended conversation with the USGA, and then I'll spend 1 to 2 days on site, just trying to get the perfect photo reference angle. I'm very much a composition kind of artist. Very important in my work, I feel, to get the composition just right. So that's more or less how the process works. By the time I left Winged Foot last year, I knew I had exactly, you know, the angle that I wanted. One of the less obvious components of this process is you always have to make sure to leave room for the type. So when I'm thinking about the best view to paint, I'm also thinking about having some important empty spaces here and there, because I need to always include some typographic elements.
You know, and it's interesting you mentioned, you know, what impact the golf course wants to say. I heard a wild stat this week, watching some of the uptake to the Open, that Tiger Woods has never won a U.S. Open, or I think they said a major on I guess it was the U.S. Open on a private golf course, only on open to the public courses. And I'll have to look back at that, but that's kind of and the reason I bring that up is that, you know, an open to the public golf course is there to increase numbers of rounds and want people to come and play, where, you know, a course like Marion, or Winged Foot, I should say, or Marion,
right,
is probably oversold on memberships, and they have a waiting list, and they're kind of doing a little bit more for the good of the game, yet they probably want to, you know, increase their ranking or whatever. But just different golf courses have different messages they want to get out too.
Well, I think particularly the USGA is doing an excellent job of going to showpiece venues, you know, having the Walker Cup at Seminole or LACC, and some of the upcoming, I mean, there's the familiar US Open clubs and venues that are, you know, in the rotation, so to speak. But with some of the other championships, they select, you know, classic golf courses. And that's, you know, for all us golf geeks and architecture nerds and stuff out there, being able to have a good look at Winged Foot, you know, it's just, you know, I think that you're right. It doesn't obviously promote the venue, because the venue doesn't need to be promoted in that case. I mean, they have long waiting lists and they're world renowned. But it does get, you know, your golf fans out there who are, particularly those who are into architecture, you know, pretty excited. And so I think that's nothing but good.
Let's throw out your web address so that, and I think people can probably see the spelling of your name so that we get the web address correctly, LeeWybranski.com.
That's it.
Purchase this stuff, and I know I've bought a couple for friends, and, you know, very affordable prices. You can go from, you know, a poster up to originals, canvas wraparounds, big variety. So you're more than just a cottage industry there. So
yeah, it's the sales online have really blossomed in the last year. I think largely we recognized early on people were going to be on their phones and laptops a lot more this year once COVID hit. So we sort of concentrated on our website a little bit, and yeah, it's grown considerably, and there's a lot of things on offer there, and it's just a really good thing, I hope, for people to look at. You know, it's just it's a pretty comprehensive take on all of our artwork, and you can even look at a lot of our logo and design clients, because a lot of people are into golf logos too. So you know, there's a lot of fun stuff to see.
Yeah, cool. Now let's literally turn the page. We just had the PGA Championship at Harding Park, San Francisco, and
right.
I think you've got one of the versions of that poster to show us there.
I do indeed.
Which is fun. I I just got mine, and I need to get it put in the frame. I was going to work on that today, actually, and there we go. All right, cool. So that's a kind of a surreal look at all the kind of aspects of Harding in the city, and
yeah, I want to show this off a little. I really like this one too.
yeah, very cool. And we got those iconic trees, the cypress trees, and the Golden Gate Bridge, and the city. You know, I grew up playing as a kid at Harding, and you know,
Like you.
it's kind of hard to believe when you're in there playing that you're, you know, on the edges of a major metropolitan city with, you know, 800,000 people as residents, and you know, it's you know, so you kind of capture that well in that painting.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. You hit kind of the two notes that I wanted to hit most, because they struck me so much when I was there. Were first and foremost the trees. I'm an East Coaster by birth, although I've been in Arizona for a while now. But you know, you don't see trees like this out east, and they're just so visually impressive and imposing, and they have this sort of fairy tale quality to how they look somehow. So I really wanted to use them to frame, you know, whatever the image was going to be. And then the fact that it's right there in the city, I mean, a municipal golf course in the city with such an incredible history, I really wanted to bring the city into the scene somehow. And I just thought the cleanest way to do that was really to show a few of the landmarks that everybody knows. And then stylistically, this is a bit of a departure. I'm probably more known for the watercolor look that I've been doing mostly for quite a long time now. And we just wanted to, I've been wanting for a while to try something like this, and the PGA was game this year. So it has a little bit of a different look, and it's been well received, so fun. I wish I could have been there too. I was nearly as excited for Harding Park this year as I was for Wingfoot. My career began at Wingfoot, so it has a special spot in my heart. But San Francisco is probably next to my hometown of Philadelphia. San Francisco, I'd say, is my favorite city in the country, and I was really excited to visit this year.
Yeah, and you said you've got an aunt that lives in here in Burlingame, where I'm based.
Yeah.
So you do have real roots there. You know, lucky for you, when the golf course was redone in around the 2000 era, a lot of these trees were thinned out and pruned up more correctly, and a lot of the views that we now get that are so spectacular were not evident because the limbs were so thick and the trees are so thick, and a lot of the Monterey pines that only have a limited life started to die off, and they had to remove a number of those. So it really thinned it out and let the shadows that we see in this painting show up better, you know, in the blue sky through the limbs and all that. So like I say, lucky for you to have a little bit of help from the agronomist. So.
Well, yeah, tip of the hat to the agronomist and the arborist and all that, because it's striking. I can imagine those lower limbs obscuring a lot, and it looks great. It's just it's a very unique and special look. I mean, that and Olympic to me are the only two courses that really remind me of one another in terms of really in terms of the trees as much as anything.
You mentioned earlier this month that the USGA made an announcement of moving a lot of their operation to Pinehurst, and announcing that Pinehurst would be in a regular rotation. And it's kind of curious that, you know, similar to the British Open has, I believe, 8 or 9 golf courses in a rotation. It'll be curious to see if, you know, if the USGA starts to venture toward, you know, a set group of golf courses versus 6, 7, 8 years ago, they really started branching out and opening up to courses that we hadn't known about, or newer courses like Chambers Bay, and they brought Torrey Pines in. So that'll be interesting to see how that all evolves over the next handful of years.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. I agree. I don't have any insight to that professionally, meaning I don't have any inside information, but it seems to me that they've kind of established a core rotation that seems to host about 70% of the championships, and then there's another 20 to 30% of the time they bring in some wild cards in the last 20 years or so, and I kind of like that approach. I mean, there's not certainly something to be said for having a limited number of courses like the RNA does, and it just goes through those, and but I also like bringing in the occasional something else now and then, every 10 or 15 years, and I feel like if they weren't open to playing it that way, places like Marion might not have worked their way back in. The courses that are heavy in the rotation, obviously Pinehurst and Oakmont and Shinnecock. No one's ever disappointed when the U.S. Open goes to those places because they're iconic U.S. Open venues, and this move to Pinehurst, I think, is really exciting and fascinating. It's almost like RNA being in St. Andrews, so to speak. It's a nice marriage of the governing body and a town that's all about golf.
Last question for Lee Wybranski, one of the renowned golf artists. You can see his work right there from the 2020 PGA Championship. This will be my journalistic question, and a no is an acceptable answer. Do you have a favorite that you've done? A favorite event painting?
I don't have one favorite, obviously. It's just like you can't pick one golf course, but one of my very favorites that has the additional significance of sort of changing the trajectory of my career was my first U.S. Open poster at Torrey Pines. It's certainly one of my top 5 images that I've ever made, but it also was a perfect storm. It was a super exciting event with Tiger Woods forcing the playoff and winning on a broken leg. Aesthetically, with the backdrop of the Pacific Ocean. And it was my first major championship, and all these we just had a home run year with it that year, and it kind of changed everything. So if you forced me to pick one, I'd probably have to say that one.
And do players come in and buy them? Let's say a young up and coming player, or like in this case, there's a lot of amateurs playing at Winged Foot. Do you have some of them come in and buy something like that?
Yeah, I know a lot of those guys. I mean, not know them, but they come in year after year. So there's an easy familiarity. But I'd say more so that occurs at the Open when I work over there, because I don't know. There's just like a slightly more discreet, quieter vibe. I feel like they're not as much mobbed when they walk around over there. But I've met a lot of the guys, and a lot of them own my work. And, I probably shared with you in some of our previous conversations that a lot of the major champions own the original paintings, for that. So, certainly not all of them, but I've got a few collectors and friends amongst the tour players. And, they're all, super guys.
Yeah, cool. Well, my poster from the 212 Open at Olympic Club is right by my front door, and a lot of people get to see it when they come to visit, and a lot of fun. Lee, thank you so much for some time, and funny that we're doing it about 1,000 miles apart, and best of luck, and we'll stay in touch and do this again sometime.
Great to talk, John, as always. Thank you for the hospitality, and best of luck with all those fires and everything in your general area out there. It's something that's certainly right next door here in Arizona we've been paying attention to and thinking about.
Yeah, and it got so bad that
take care, and hope to talk to you soon.
All right, very good. There's Lee Wybranski, and thanks for your time this morning. That's awesome.